Hello, and welcome to the Transporter Room. I'm Karleigh Webb, and this week we're going to have Layne Ingram on the show, basketball head coach, talking about hoops, trans rights, and his extraordinary story. What a week we've had in sports. The United States might have its first transgender Olympian. We'll have the details. And yes, another state passed one of those ridiculous anti-trans bills. We'll have the details on that too. And what's Charlie Martin doing in British Vogue? And who is that Liberty who became a Lynx and immediately became a star? We're going to let you in on that. But first, Control, can you beam up a car?
Karleigh, your car has warp capability.
Oh, it has warp capabilities. We can do that. Warp factor, keep it under 55. We'll see you in a minute. Wow, warp drive works in a car.
Yes, Karleigh, it does.
Smart aleck computer. Anyway, I'm Karleigh Webb, and this is the Transporter Room, and this week we have a special guest, Outsports Triumph Award winner and Lansing, Michigan Community College head women's basketball coach, Layne Ingram. We're going to beam him up in just a few minutes, but first, what's going on? What's going on? A lot has been, so here's the news roundup, and we start Monday, Montpellier, France, UCI Urban World Championship, and BMX freestyler Chelsea Wolfe of the United States was 5th overall, and that means in the USA team rankings, she sits 3rd, which means she could be selected as the alternate for the U.S. Olympic team heading to Tokyo next month. If she's selected, she will be the first out transgender American athlete to make a U.S. Olympic team. When USA Cycling makes the official announcement, we're going to let you know. Now, Wolfe is from Florida, and that's the latest home of, the trans ban. Governor Ron DeSantis signing a law banning transgender girls and women from interscholastic and intercollegiate athletics into law on the first day of Pride. And we know what it was about. But, Governor, I think you need to take a look at what's happening in West Virginia right now, because one mom wasn't having it. She's suing. A mom in the state named Heather Jackson has an 11-year-old daughter named Becky who just wants to run cross country in middle school next year. But since Becky is a transgender girl, she was told, run for the boys team, kid. Well, Mom Jackson, she got real. She's challenging that law with a suit with the help of the American Civil Liberties Union. You know what that means, West Virginia? You're going to get chastised. In media news this week, the NCAA's first transgender national champion is now the queen of all media. Cece Telfer was profiled in the New York Times last week. She's going to be interviewed as part of a Pride theme edition of the CBS Sports Network program We Need to Talk on Wednesday, June 9th. Now, her main thrust, getting ready for a long shot bid at Tokyo at the U.S. Olympic trial starting June 18th. But she has one thing in her pocket. On May 14th, she became a U.S. citizen. Across the Atlantic, check out who is in British Vogue. Endurance racer Charlie Martin is part of their Force for Change initiative for Pride Month. She had a nice mini profile in the magazine, and I gotta say, I am liking that dress, but that price tag, ooh, that's $800 US if we're scoring it home. Martin, even though she's in the UK, has been outspoken about what's going on lately here in the US.
Right. This is about kids striving to better themselves, their self-esteem, their vision of what they can achieve in their lives. Sport is a big part of that in people's lives, and by denying that, it blows my mind, frankly.
Now, we all know she does her best talking on the track, and in the Brit Car Endurance Series, she's been putting in some serious work alongside teammate Jack Fabi in that Praga. opened the season at Silverstone with a win and a second place. And then a few weeks later, they got a podium finish at Snetterton, and they got caught on the wrong end of a pit row accident. Still, they're fourth in the standings on 84 points as the series moves to Oulton Park this weekend. And along the way, she got another podium in between the starts with Praga. She was part of the team diverse effort alongside Dutch endurance driver Sandra Vandersloot, and they raced in a race in Germany a few weeks ago in a BMW GT4 M4, and they podiumed in that too. Charlie also has a little contest that you can get into. There's a print of Charlie racing that Praga that's done by Cami Sturch. Now, Cami Sturch is a trans woman in the UK who's an accomplished sim racer, and she's quite a digital motorsports artist as well. I can prove how good she is because some of her artwork is on my wall right now. If you want to know more how you can get in on this contest to get this really beautiful print, we're going to have that information for you at our Twitter page. And finally, our player of the week. And Lashia Clarendon has had quite a week. Signed by the Minnesota Lynx on May 30th. First game, same day. They signed, she saw, and he rocked the house, starting at the end of regulation against the Connecticut Sun.
Collier gets it into Clarendon right before the horn. Did she get it before the buzzer?
Nope, didn't count. They reviewed it, and it turned out they were a little late on the draw. But it ain't nothing but the chicken wing on the string for this kid. Clarendon had some clutch buckets in overtime. 12 points, 5 boards, the win over the Connecticut, and he won the heart of a team and a fan base on the comeback trail.
I'm still just like trying to catch my breath, like what just happened? I got cut a week ago. I flew home. I got on a plane. I'm playing with the Minnesota Lynx, but that's the WNBA. You just have to stay ready and prepared. So I'm going to go take a deep breath.
Oh, she wasn't done. Clarendon's averaged 27 minutes and 11 points per game. And partly due to his efforts, the Lynx have gone 3-1 in that stretch. Yep, you're hearing that noise. You know what that means. We got to get a word in from our sponsors. But when we come back, Layne Ingram beans up. I'm Karleigh Webb. This is the Transporter Room. Stay with us. And welcome back to the Transporter Room. I'm Karleigh Webb, and our guest this week, this is an honor. 2021 Outsports Coaching Triumph Award winner Layne Ingram is here with us. Now, Layne is the head women's basketball coach at Lansing, Michigan Community College. And that job, in a sense, was a passing of the torch. His father, Mike Ingram, was a basketball coach there for 3 decades. Now, Ingram comes from a basketball pedigree, all-state in high school, standout player at the University of Michigan, and in 2002 was a third-round selection for the WNBA. Now, after taking the head coaching job at LCC, Ingram began his transition into becoming the proud man he always knew he was. And now he's using his coach's whistle as a platform for transgender people in these hard times. Beaming in from Lansing, Michigan, the bad man from Michigan himself, Lansing Community College head women's basketball coach Layne Ingram. Energize. Beaming in from Lansing, Michigan, the coach, Layne Ingram, and our Triumph Award winner for 2021 as a coach. Welcome to the Transporter Room. I must say, honored to have you here.
Man, thank you for asking me. I'm really happy to be here, and that Out Sports Award was really, really a surprise and an honor. And I just want to keep things moving forward. It's Pride Month. I'm feeling prideful, and I'm happy to be here.
Well, we're gonna get into all the pride stuff, a lot of things, but first I want to talk about some hoop.
Okay.
We got to get a little basketball into this. First, NBA playoffs. What are you seeing? What are you? How's this thing going to play out? How do you see it going?
To be honest, right? So now that LeBron and them are out, I'm kind of like, what? Like, I mean, that was kind of devastating. Like, what to me? I really thought that they were going to go do it. Now I'm into Brooklyn. I don't really have an NBA team. I haven't had an NBA team since Michael Jordan and the Bulls. I just haven't. That's how I grew up. He was my guy. So I don't watch it until it gets to the playoffs. This is when I think it gets fun and interesting. So where I'm at right now is knowing that people are throwing bottles at people and the Lakers are out. That's where I'm at right now.
Now I'm finding this interesting. You're you down with Jordan,
Yeah.
but you in Michigan. Wait a minute. Come on now.
What, you want me to like the Pistons
Come
too?
on now. Come
You
on.
gotta be for
I
real.
love the
Okay.
bad boys. I'll admit it. I was Rodman forever. I was
Listen.
Dumars forever. I was Vinnie Johnson forever.
Hey, the Pistons were my nemesis. But see, as a basketball playing kid, I mean, I loved Michael Jordan. I mean, his work ethic, the time he put in. I mean, I was a psychotic basketball player as a kid. I mean, that's all I wanted to do was be in the gym in the college. And so he was my guy. And I did not like the Pistons. I like the Bulls. And I maybe have been to maybe two Pistons games in my life. Is that not ridiculous? For
Two
real.
pin. Okay, I could see you not going necessarily going to the Pistons now. I mean, maybe at least stepping in there when Chauncey Billups was there. I mean, stepping into
Yeah.
the power. I mean, that was back when they was winning
Well,
in the
hold
power.
on. Now, I did take a 8-year hiatus to Los Angeles, though. So between 2003 and 2010, I was living the high life in LA. I had different teams.
Okay,
So,
all right, fair enough. But now in the WNBA,
mhm.
what are you seeing right? What are you seeing right now?
So here's what I'm going to say about the WNBA. I'm going to ride with the Sparks always, and I know that, they're not doing their thing, but it's because during my stint in LA, I worked for the Sparks for 3 seasons, and I made great friends and great relationships, and I loved it. After I got over the fact that I didn't make it after I got drafted, I still loved it. Um, but so, the Sparks are my team. I really like the Connecticut Sun, though. I really like the Connecticut Sun. I don't understand why the Aces jumped them. I don't understand that. But, um, I like watching it. When it comes on, I make my kids sit down and watch it because I think it's important, you know?
Well, I'll tell you what. The Sun are my local team. I live an hour away from where they play in Connecticut,
The
and
Mohegan.
yeah, down at the casino, and no, the Sun are actually looking. They're still looking pretty strong this year. I can see
Yeah.
them coming. I can see them coming through in the East. I could see that. I could see that. One person I do. I was talking about them before we beamed you in here was Lashia Clarendon, and just the week that he's been having, just walked in. They signed a contract with the Lynx, and the next thing you know, the Lynx were on a winning streak that just got snapped
Yeah.
Tuesday night. So I have to say, I mean, that is a story I'm going to continue to look at. But in addition to the whole league and also all the different storylines, and of course the Olympics coming up, and see if the ladies can do it one more time and get another gold, especially with Sue Bird heading out of the league most likely after this year. So
Right.
this is going
Right.
to be a wild year. But another thing that's been a wild year about has been all this. There's something in your blog where you talk about cringy hot mess, and we are going to get no, we're going to get into
Oh,
we're going to step into that a
man.
little bit. We're going to step in. Oh no, you don't understand. We do our research here at the
Oh,
Transporter.
I guess so.
We do our no. We're going to step into that. But the cringy hot mess I'm talking about is all these anti-trans bills across this country. I got this quote here from your Twitter. I am hot. Get ready to know me. Hashtag not in my state. Hashtag protect trans kids. I mean, what's your thoughts on what you've been seeing really since Idaho more than a year ago in
Right.
regard to all these attacks?
To be honest, and this is naive of me, right? So Idaho happened, and I just kept thinking to myself, like, not here. I'm not going to worry about it, because I was thinking about our leadership. We've got a great governor, we've got a great lieutenant governor, great attorney general, right? Great people at the very top. And I just kind of naively was like, not here. And when I found out about our bill, which is absurd. I mean, it's absurd. It's like, what's the point of it? One, I was hot. I mean, I was hot pissed and angry for the trans kids in my state, angry for their parents, angry for our community, angry that we would be one of the states in the country that would say to some kids, you don't belong here as who you are. I mean, I hate that. I'm angry about it. And so, the fact that, when you ask me, if anybody asks me to do anything, I'm going to say yes. I want to say loud and clearly, as many places as I can, that these bills are based on fear, ignorance, hate, and transphobia. End of story, bottom line.
One thing is, as a trans man, how do you answer to those who don't even bring trans men into the equation when you're talking about these bills? Because a lot of people just don't.
I mean, I just think it's unfortunate on both sides of it, right? Like it's awful for the trans women who have this spotlight on them, right? That's awful. And then for the trans young men and men, it's awful too, because you're saying, what, you just think we can't compete? Like, I think about myself even as a kid, right? Like, obviously I grew up as a little girl and I used to give the boys the business, like, understand me, listen to me, hear me. When I was a kid to college, it doesn't matter who it was, because I was a basketball player. And that's what people need to understand. You're an athlete. The two top organizations in the world know how to do it. It's called science, right? It's called science. I think, I wish I had known sooner. I don't know how it would have gone. I don't know if my parents would have been supportive. I don't know if I would have got the gender affirming care and support, but if I had, right, and I had the same love and passion that I had for basketball, I would have worked my butt off. And seen what I could do. And I'm a little short, but so was Spud Webb. So is Chauncey. I mean, so is Allen Iverson. And I'm just saying, like, it's about, you gotta be special. It is what it is.
I want you to answer this thing, because I get this a lot across Twitter, across all these panel discussions, Fox News. I'm okay if trans men get an opportunity to play because you won't be competitive anyway. So no harm, no foul.
I mean, I have a couple of things to say to that. One, it's not true. Two, the fact that it's not even been an issue is like, why are we talking? Like, what is the problem? Is my answer to it. What's the problem? Like, who's coming for you? I mean, I guess, like I said, if I had known, I guess I would have came for somebody's spot, because I can shoot and I can play and I'm a competitor. And that's what athletes are. This is the transporter room. We're athletes, right? Mm-hmm. If you're an athlete, you put the time in, right? You do the work, right? It pays off. That's how it works. For example, like, look at me right now. When I walk around, nobody knows that I'm trans, and on one hand, that's the goal that you're trying to get to. But on the other hand, right, like, I can't hide that. I'm not trying to hide that. I want everybody to know I'm out and proud, so I think we just keep repeating this cycle.
And in your mind, what is this issue really about for the people that are pushing it?
Yeah. I was just talking about this with a friend, and I'm like, sometimes I can't really wrap my head around it, except to say that it is ignorance and fear and hate. And I think, shows like Disclosure, right, and Pose, and shows like the podcast, and, like, having advocates like Chris Mosier and having Kai Shepley have that much attention, it helps to show people, like what trans people are actually like, but I can't wrap my head around it when what I do in my own home in my life has no effect on what you do. I don't care what you do at your house. You care what I do at my house. You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean. But one thing you just talked about was just how much you want to ball. You said, quote, I played basketball, taught me many things, how to work hard, to be tough, to have a passion for something, how to be a teammate, a leader, a role model, confidence. But there's this sentence. It also masked what else was going on.
Mm-hmm.
How did basketball play into that? Because that's something I can relate to, because that was me too at a young age.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think just the way that I grew up, I mean, I grew up in the church, and homosexuality, because if you I mean, I'm sure a lot of people grew up in the church, but like in the black church, like that's what it was called. It's a sin.
Mm-hmm.
The idea of transgender people was not in the realm of my environment. And if they ever were brought up, they were called transsexuals, and it was negative and it was derogatory. I mean, it just was not a thing. And I also feel like growing up, like we didn't talk about things, like you didn't talk about your feelings. You didn't explore things. I mean, that wasn't a thing that we did. Like kids these days, to me, I think there's a fine line, right? Like you need to chill with your feelings, but also like, sure, tell me how you feel. But anyway, we didn't do that. And, even when, I mean, look, when I look back, I definitely I'm definitely a trans kid when I look back and see all the things. I mean, it just is unreal. And so I didn't date in high school. I didn't date in middle school. I didn't have boyfriends. I didn't date in college, really, right? I didn't do any of that stuff. I didn't party. I played basketball. That's what I did. I played basketball, and I was good at it. That was the thing that I could do. That was the thing that I had control over, and it did teach me how to be confident and how to work hard and how to want something, how to work for something. And those are intangible things that I would not have, that I was not going to learn anywhere else. And if I hadn't had basketball, like I wouldn't have this self-esteem. I wouldn't be able to sit here and talk to you. I wouldn't be able to talk in front of people, right? I maybe would not be as outgoing to share my story. And to try to take that away from a really small population of kids will do so much more harm than good. So that's what I mean when I say basketball saved my life, because I didn't have an outlet for the feelings I was feeling inside.
I can really relate to that at two levels. One, just that idea of having this thing that can make me forget about all those feelings. Because I was the same way as a teenager. If I could make this team, if I could win at this debate tournament, if I could get into this highly competitive educational environment, I can forget about all the noise that's up here. I can forget about all that. If my career gets right, I can forget about all the noise. Because you start your transition at 36. I started mine at 46.
Wow.
So I can definitely relate
Wow.
there. When you took this coaching job, it was a passing of the torch for you. Your father had this job for 27 years. He was coaching. What was the early process? What was that process like to get parents and family in step? And in turn, get the coaching step, now you're taking the whistle and you're getting this team and you're starting transition. How'd you get the club in step? And also, how did you get you in step? How did you make all that work?
Right. Well, so here's the cool thing about it is my dad has been the coach at LCC, 30 something years, right? And he coaches the men. And so the women's coach was also a longtime coach. He had been there like 25 years and he left.
Okay, so
And
Dad, make sure I got it right. Dad was not coaching the men, who was coaching the men's team.
yep, he
And
was
you was
coaching the
watching
men's
him.
team.
Okay, he's coaching the men's
Yep.
team, but you took the place of a long time women's coach.
Yep. Yep. And so it was cool though, because my dad had been there and it was like, going to be at the time, it was like, wow, Layne Ingram is coming back and is going to coach at LCC. And I got the job in, like April of 2017. And in February of 2017, I had my first shot of testosterone. I mean, I like that past November, I'd come out as trans to like my wife, right? I had found a therapist. I was doing the thing and I finally found a doctor. And so I got this job, and I'm on my second month of testosterone. And I was like, the local paper did an article and I was like, oh God, I have to I'm gonna have to tell like my parents at least. So soon after that came out, I told my parents, and that was good. And so I kind of had uh the summer, to kind of, get my team in. And one day I just brought them out in the hallway and I said, I gotta tell you guys something. Um, and I told them, and it was interesting. But I was getting ready to have top surgery, and I was getting impatient, and once and you want people to know. So
I've said that a lot of times. When you know, because
yeah.
I was right there. It's like when you know, you know. Now, one thing about you as well is Lansing is home for you.
Mhm.
Lansing is home. You not only are you coaching at LC at Lansing Community College, you were a standout at Waverly High. You were a you were area player of the year twice. You led your teams deep into the postseason. You ended up going down the road to Ann Arbor. And I'm asking because I struggle with this a lot. When you've accomplished and then you take this new fork in the road because you need to take it.
I can't believe you're gonna ask this.
How do you, in a sense, how do you reconcile all that? Do
Hmm.
you reconcile all that? What do you keep? What do you compartmentalize? How do you deal?
Wow.
Because I struggle with that.
It
I will
takes
be the
it
first to
takes
say I
another
struggle.
yeah. Only another trans person can know to ask you that question, because I don't know how if people really understand what it's like. I mean, it's so funny that you said that. So get this. Last night I was on my computer and I was doing some stuff and I found uh our NCAA tournament game from 2001. This is an important game because like I had 27 points in the second half. It was on national TV. We
That was
won.
the
It was cool.
Virginia game.
Yes. How do you know? Okay, you
That was the
do your
Virginia
research.
game.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, I've been watching women's basketball a long time.
Got it. So I am looking for these video files. I'm working on this project and I see it. So I click it and I put it on my screen over here to kind of watch in the background. And to be perfectly honest, right? I remember that moment because it was one of the greatest moments of my life. My family was in the crowd. Like my team, we played great. I had a great second half. I remember that. But when I'm watching it, right? Like I know it's me, right? But it's almost like a before. That's my before life, you know. And I'm gonna tell you two ways that I look at it, right? So as I'm watching that game, what I'm looking at is the people that I played with and remembering how I felt at the time, right? Like I got really emotional. Like my brother was in the crowd, and that was an important time in my life, and I loved doing that, right? But that's not me. And I distinctly remember looking like, yeah, that's you, but that's the you had to be, right? To get done what you were trying to get done, which was to go to school for free, to play basketball for your dream, try to make it to WNBA, right? Like that was the dream. That's what I was doing. Um, the other way I look at it as, you know, and I'm being honest with you since you asked me this, there's a block of time in my life that probably is in a box way back there. Like, I probably if I was to be honest, I probably stopped when I graduate from college and I just kind of grew up to be who I am right now. Like this is how I would have imagined I grew up to be if it had worked out right.
One thing you said you're working on a project, and that's why you're digging into all these crates and
Mhm.
pulling out all these memories. What's the project you're working on?
Well, I just think 2021 is going to be a big year for our community. I do. I think we have stories to share. We have stories to share and information that needs to get out about us. And so, one of my dreams is to one, write a book, and two, figure out a way to tell my story. And I think there's a lot wrapped up in that, right? Like there's the blackness of it all, there's the churchness of it all, there's the gayness of it all, there's the transness of it all, and so that's kind of what I'm working on. That's all you get.
Well, I can tell you this. I'm working on a very similar project. I'm working on a similar project because this year a couple weeks ago I marked 50 years on this planet.
Wow.
And and much like the thing you've done, I've also had to look at, okay, do I compartmentalize this in this box? Do I look back? Do I just forget about this? Because I've talked to quite a few people who have said, no, I don't want, like, for example, I talked to Stephen Alexander earlier this year, and Stephen Alexander, coach in Rhode Island, had a profile done on him on Outsports, caught up with him, see how he is doing. And much like you, that local legend, but a local legend who has a dead name on a banner in a high school gym somewhere, and they will not walk, and they don't, and it's cringy for them to walk in. So I mean that's a tough thing. I mean, and I'll tell you, thank you for that answer because it's given me a lot of insight into my own process, and that's one thing. Could you walk into Waverly High School even now
Yeah, and
and be cool?
what I'd say is, what I feel like a lot here is it's the novelty of it all. Right now, let me be clear. Like, Waverly is a good community. I mean, I was a star though. I mean, I feel like I can walk in anywhere. That's my school. Like, that's my school. My jersey is retired there. I left there I mean, that's my school. And so again, basketball taught me that confidence though. I mean, that is what it is. So yes, but I think it's about novelty, right? So like, let's take even like, these neighboring schools or just Lansing in general, like people that see me, that recognize me, or if I have to say or whatever, right? Like, it's a nice, how are you? Oh, ooh, you're right. Um, but see, when things get real, right? We got these anti-trans legislations going on. And at some point, the rubber's going to meet the road because I'm going to be on this side and I'm going to be loud and proud about it. Right. And, the people that are, smiling and good with, oh, Layne is trans. That's cool. We're fine with it. But like, are you fine with it? Or you want to do the right thing? So I think we're in the novelty right now where things are okay. But, the more you speak up, the more you speak out, there's crazy people everywhere.
No, that's something you actually talked about in your blog, where you talk about those people that'll be cool that say, "Oh, it's fine as long as I get the pronouns right and the names right when I'm in front of you, but when you're not here, I'm going to dead
Yeah.
name you." And you say clearly, that's not fine.
No.
That is not cool.
Well, and people should know that we know that you do that. Like, it's obvious. I mean, like, if you did it all the time, you wouldn't stumble because it's been 4.5 years. But if
Now,
you use the wrong pronouns at your house, when you see me, you're going to mess up.
well, something I say a lot. If you can dead name people in private, chances are pretty good it's going to slip out in public. What
Yeah.
you do in the dark come out in the light. We know this. Now, in your own view, we gonna go here. What's your cringy hot mess? If you share your cringy hot mess, I will share my cringy hot mess.
I mean, I, you know, what the one I wrote about, here's the thing that makes me cringe. Seriously, this does. And I know it's silly, but like, transitioning is so absurd sometimes. Like, it is the most amazing thing that's ever happened to me. It is, we said this earlier, when like when the words formed, I'm trans, like in my head, like it was like being punched in the chest, like down to my soul, like
Mm-hmm.
a graphic of all the things making sense coming together, right? And you can't help yourself but be like excited and go. And I just really thought I was doing some stuff. My cringiest moment is probably a year and a half into my transition, and I was really doing the most with my hair and just thinking that I really had it going on. And what you don't realize on T is that first, and this happened to me anyway, is first you get a little swole. And then after you get swole, and so during my swole phase is cringe for me. but you don't know it at the time. At the time, I thought I was looking good, but looking back at pictures, it's like, dude, stop, stop, sir, right now.
That's facts. That's facts. I will say I had the very similar cringe. Because at the beginning, before I realized that, you know what, you have to actually, there's certain commitments you have to make, and growing your hair out is one of them. If you choose to, if you're getting serious, you grow your hair out, because there's nothing worse than, being in a moment when you're playing a game and your wig comes out. That was,
Hey,
I mean, that is that is, and you're thinking, oh my God, then it hits you.
hey, my little sister though, in your defense though, my little sister has had her phony pony fall out in a basketball game and her weave. So it happens.
uh, no, but really, no. Actually, the real cringe is thinking back to how, in one way, how long I waited. Because I remember when I really started thinking, okay, I have to start investigating this whole gender idea here. And I would call the first support group I belonged to. I called them 5 times before I finally had the nerve to say, when is the. I kept calling, saying, when's the meeting? When's the meeting this week? Because some of those things, you have
Yep.
discretion is key. And
Mm-hmm.
finally, it took the person. And I'm gonna call her out here, Deja Greenlaw. You've been called out in the transporter room. She finally just said, "Will you just come to the meeting? You've
Okay,
been picking,
Deja.
you've been picking at this and picking at this. Will you just come to the meeting?" That, I look back on that as like, what was I waiting for? And
Man,
at
that's
another
hard.
level, what am I? I mean, but also for you, at what point for you? I mean, and especially looking back, did you realize that, yes, this is the choice I had to make?
Well, so here it's more like things just still weren't right. I mean, you know how you talk about having success and having like a great life? I mean, from the outside looking in, like even I mean, I had a great childhood. Didn't want for anything. It didn't feel like. I mean, I had great high school, great college. I mean, good jobs, right? I was in a 10-year relationship with the not with the same person. I'm with somebody else before who I don't like at all and probably would leave on the side of the road. But anyway, I was in a 10-year relationship and everything was fine, but like something was still missing, right? Like I wasn't okay. I just, like there's that general, you're not okay, but like you're fine. And I wrote about this, right? Like you can be fine and get along, right? You can be okay. And it just got to be unbearable. And that's what happens, I think, with people who are struggling to come out or struggling with their identity or who are trans or who are part of the LGBTQ plus community, right? Like it gets to be unbearable until you figure it out.
You have a podcast as well.
I do.
What got you? What got you started on the Reconstructed Man podcast? What got that going? What was the thrust to get that moving?
So interestingly enough, I did a panel for Trans Awareness Week. And I have a really good friend. His name is Daniel, and um he's a trans guy who I used to work with, and he actually was like the first trans person that I met, and really helped me a lot. I mean, he still helps me to this day, just
like, I'm not telling anyone.
in
Like,
being
this
okay
thing
with
will
being me and what
remain
it's going to
between
feel
me and
like,
me.
and understanding that you
No
need a
one will ever
support
hear
group. And
about
so
it.
he came on and did this panel with me, and when we got off, we were like, hey, we kind of got a little bit of chemistry. I like talking to you. And we just kind of started talking about it. And so last November, we said, let's give it a try. And we did. We did season 1 of The Reconstructed Man. And it's, to kind of really explore the transgender experience and share stories, and amplify people's voices. And I loved it. I thought it was really great. And so season 2 actually starts June 16th. And I've got some really awesome guests for this season. It's going to be just me. So like every other episode, there'll be a guest, and then I'll do an episode alone with topics and stuff like that.
I checked out some of the podcasts, and what do you think people misunderstand about transgender men?
Uh, Hmm. I mean, I think people in general don't get it. I mean, I think, uh, and I think they think it's okay to just ask stuff too, which is like, I don't just ask you stuff, but thankfully for me, right? I've had a good, oh, I got a kitty cat too.
Yeah, I
Yay.
know, kittens. This is my
Right.
support animal in many ways. But what is so? So a lot of
Sorry.
it's just the questions people ask.
Yeah. I mean, I think, you know, I lucked out, and I'm not saying this in a way, but like I am really happy with the way that I look, and even if I think I'd be happy with how I look no matter what, right? But like it's gone pretty well. And my friends are like, you're you look like you, but just like different, or like, they tell me that I'm handsome and all that stuff. So like it's a little bit different. I think for men, it's a little bit different, it's just like for me, I'll give you a good example. So I had this friend, she's a woman, like a cis female. And before I came out to her as trans, I said, if you were gonna get together with your girlfriend to go on a shopping trip, like, would you call me? And she was like, no. And I was like, thank you. Right. Because that's not ever what I was giving off anyway. Right. Like I was one of her guy friends before, even though I wasn't. And so I just kind of assumed, I just kind of moved into that role. It just kind of worked. I don't know.
That
I think people think that trans guys are hot, obviously.
well, yeah, the trans guys are hot. Just ask them. Because every
Hey,
trans masculine friend I have, they're like, okay, then they're like, I'm the deal.
hey.
Like
The thing is, the
some of
thing
y'all
is
get kind of
though,
like Alexander O'Neill, all true man. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, I went
what
there.
you don't understand you don't understand what happens though when you see it and you got the pow your facial hair and
Hmm.
you get the box face and then your shoulders do the thing. You'd be like, you can't, when you get your top surgery, you'd be like, you can't tell me nothing.
But
I mean,
that
it's a dream.
but those are facts right there. Those are serious facts because everybody I know who's gotten top surgery was actually I want to get I want to get an answer on this one because recently somebody in the sports world had that top surgery. Shea Clarendon,
Oh no, she's
who we were
taking
just talking
Clarendon
about,
to throw.
who hit that buzzer beater against the Sun that they called back last week,
Right.
had that top
McBride
surgery.
gets it over to Clarendon.
As someone who's
Takes the
also
shot.
been there, what do you think that's going to mean for sports? Like you said, this is going to be a pivotal year for the peoples. I mean, looking at somebody who may be coming from a different direction but understands what that means, what do you think that's going to mean at one level for the WNBA in terms of just
What
basketball,
are
but
their
also
pronouns?
they use all three. They interchange
Okay.
and they prefer interchange.
Okay. So
He, she,
here's
and they.
good good for them. So, and like that's not that hard. Might I just say, people, it's not that hard. Like whatever,
No, it's
whatever
not.
they want to be called. Anyway, okay. So funny story. So I was gonna get my top surgery, and my mom says she's like all up, like worried, comes over, like kind of in tears in her eyes. She's like, "What if you regret it? What if you regret it?" And I looked at her in her eyes. I looked at her in her eyes with like I've never looked someone in their eyes the way that I looked my mom in her eyes when I said, I will never regret this. And that has been the single greatest thing I could have done, because the weight of those, the barrier of those between me and myself, physically and emotionally and mentally, was a lot. And for uh for them, I like euphoria is what I'm sure it's going to be. And I hope that whoever else in the league wants to go that route, because it's a source of like dysphoria, or it's a source of like emotional strife, or it doesn't fit, right? Like it feels great when they're gone. Like seriously, I went to Florida this year and I was out on the beach. Let me tell you. So
another thing before we start this interview, you said you like get your video game on, and
Yeah.
you get pretty serious about it. So what are you grooving to right now? What is your video game jam at the moment?
Yeah. So I'm a big time Call of Duty player, big time. And I play online, multiplayer right now. And I also play Madden. I'm in the Madden 21 right now. I'm not gonna lie. Madden 21 is hard, and I'm terrible at it, and I don't appreciate that, right? Because I'm not as bad as Madden 21 is making it out to be. So I'm put that out there.
Oh well, now here's the question: which console, which machine?
PS4,
Oh,
PS4,
all right,
baby.
PS4. Now,
PS4 Pro, excuse me, because you got to have the graphics card.
oh,
My
you got
bad.
to get big. Oh, you got to get all big. You got to big pimp that, huh? So when you gonna get the 5?
Hey, listen, I just turned 40. Okay. I got other priorities now. I'm just kidding. When my wife gets it for me, I better get it for Father's Day.
Now, quick thing about one of those priorities, because you got a graduation coming up.
Right. Big time. Yeah. I got my daughters graduating this weekend from high school. We're so very proud. So we got lots of family descending upon town. Seriously, I'm like Bob the Builder right now. Okay. I'm like doing yard work. I am building walls. I am cleaning garages and moving stuff. I'm trimming hedges. There's a lot going on right now.
So now, the thing you were just talking about, that sense of relief. Now, does does being a dad kind of play into that as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think when I think about my kids, they just have done great. They just have done great. We were very honest with them and let them ask questions, but they've just been great. They get it, and whoa. And they haven't really they haven't had any bad backlash, and I've been able to actually be me, which is great, right? Like strong. Like how do I want how would I treat my daughters as a dad, and I think I'm doing a pretty good job at it.
You see a big year coming, even with this tsunami that's been around the community, the isolation and the difficulties of COVID last year. And I can tell you, as an operator for Trans Lifeline, I've heard and felt a lot of that, and it hits you here. It
Hmm.
does. Plus the the uncertainties with all the anti-trans bills, uncertainties with the Equality Act. Why why are you bullish on this community in this year ahead?
I feel like there's so much happening, right? Like, yeah, the anti-trans legislation is happening, and there's the racial discourse across the country, right? Like we're dealing with the far right crazies. Yes, we are. But collectively as a group, at least from what I'm seeing, there's a lot of voices. There's a lot of people with projects and thoughts and trying to raise awareness and trying to say, no, we're here. We're not going anywhere. And that's giving me hope. And I'm going to do my part, right? Like my part is to come on this show. My part is to make sure that I continue to do things on social media, that I'm going to talk to a government agency later this month, like, and share my story. Like that's the things that we can do. And I'm going to keep doing that until our voices get amplified, and until people understand, right? Like we are just people who have been here for hundreds and hundreds of years. We are not going anywhere. You will not take our rights because we won't stand for it. And I think that's the difference with where we're at right now. Like I mean, we're not, and we do have politicians that will say these things, right? We need them to do the work.
And I know one thing, you're going to be out here doing that work. Coach Layne Ingram, thank you for being in the transporter room. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for
And just
having me.
and most importantly, thank you for your example. Because not only was this interview one that I really enjoyed, I learned a lot from it. And I'm going to take a lot from it. So thank you.
Appreciate you and all you're doing. Hit me up anytime.
We'll do. We're gonna have you back because I'm gonna work on my Call of Duty game. We're gonna do this. We're
Hey,
gonna do
eight,
this. I'm gonna work on.
1840. 1840. Hit me anytime. Let's
Okay,
go.
we'll do. Okay, okay. Okay, we're gonna have Northwestern against Michigan. We're gonna have this out.
My God.
I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna show you.
Nobody's worried about the Wildcats. Is
I'm
that what you
gonna
guys
show you.
are?
Y'all was worried about us last. Hey, all I'm saying is y'all was worried about us last year, football and basketball. Y'all was a little bit. Y'all was a little worried. Y'all was a little, and you better worry about this year too. Yeah, I said it. Yeah, you heard me, hardball.
Wow.
You heard me, Jalen.
All right.
You
I'll
heard
talk to
me.
you. I'll see you. Okay. Well, I'm gonna mark the date. We'll see.
Oh! You mark it, because we're gonna be there. Coach Ingram, it was great having you tonight, and it was great having all of you. Because after all, we do the show not for ourselves, we do it for you. So if there's something you want to see, someone you want to see, or something you want to say about the transporter room, do it on our Twitter, do it on our Instagram, come to our Facebook page, let us know because we do the show for you. I'm Karleigh Webb. That's the transporter room for this week. Live long and prosper. Steady as she goes. I'll see you next week.